I think you just showed a graph that was pretty clear.
Yeah.
Local content is the winner in these markets. Look, we have great global content. I think Disney is as well positioned as any company with content that does appeal globally. But if we're going to be a big player, and we are in areas outside of India, but throughout Asia, local content is crucial. And we have to have that as the substrate that we build upon to grow not only our direct-to-consumer businesses, but also our traditional businesses. If you look at India as a guidepost, which we do, Uday has assembled the vastly the biggest traditional television player in India, and on top of that traditional business, he has grown an over-the-top business, which is quite substantial. I mean, I think that we just informed our investors and analysts in the United States a couple weeks ago at the conference you referred to about the size of India. That's gone under the radar screen to some degree, but in March, Hotstar, which is our over-the-top platform, drove over 300 million monthly active users. That's quite substantial, obviously. And 1 out of every 4 hours of television viewing in India is delivered via a Star television network. So that's the type of model that we'd love to see elsewhere throughout Asia. Not exactly, each market's somewhat different, but if you can take that sort of model, local traditional television, moving over the top in a very substantial way, and we can create that model throughout Southeast Asia and the rest of Asia, we'd be quite pleased.
Investors have been talking about it, and some of your favorite analysts have been talking about it as well in the last couple of years. The journey to go all in on this service, I mean, did you ever change your mind? Was there any consternation? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's going all in with a new business model, and disrupting your current business is not taken lightly, obviously. We discussed it for quite some time. At Disney, we've been looking at the direct-to-consumer, the benefits of going direct-to-consumer for several years, and it's not just in the last 2 years. We've been looking at that for over 5 years. And there are many benefits to going direct-to-consumer. One, you get to understand your consumers. The only way to really get data on people's affinities and usage patterns and viewing patterns is to have a direct relationship with them. It's the retailer that earns the right to access data and thereby use that data to personalize services and serve your consumers better. So one of the core strategic elements that we've been seeking is a way to understand who each of our consumers are and personalize our services for them. You have to be direct-to-consumer to do that.
Right.
But also, more than that, or as much as that, it's a big financial growth strategy. There was a whole part of the value chain that we were leaving to third parties. And that distribution value chain doesn't require massive infrastructure anymore. It just requires the right brands, the right video, and a way to inject that video onto the internet. If you can do that, you can now be a distributor, a high-quality distributor of your own product. And we have the brands that work, I think. Right on the screen here, I think everyone would probably agree with that. We have brands that matter. We have, therefore, built-in equity with consumers and an advantage of getting people to view our product online outside of a traditional TV bundle. And it's a great growth strategy for us.
It was very interesting that you put out also that you were going to break even in 5 years or start making money on this in 5 years. Mm-hmm. Can you give me some of the economic thinking around that? Because there's also some foregone licensing revenue, or you're paying back licensing revenue to the studio.
Yeah, that's a good question. We set up the new Disney in a very specific way. So we've taken theme parks and consumer products, which they're related to our IP, but they're not media businesses. We've set that up in one division. We've taken the creative elements of our business that create product, our movie studio, our television studios, ESPN, which is a big sports business for us, and created essentially a content engine. And then we have direct-to-consumer and international, where we monetize that content in a big way. And we wanted our investors to really understand the economics of each of those segments. So direct-to-consumer, my segment, will pay a license fee for the usage of the product that our creative content centers create. So the foregone licensing will exist, but our traditional businesses are being paid for by us. So as we move to self-exploitation, our economics will include the payment to those studios, so the foregone licensing will show up in our P&L.
Right.
And the 5-year break-even that we were referring to includes the effect of that payment to our content divisions. So I think that investors will be able to value the traditional Disney, which will be made whole because of the payments we're making, and then the new part of the Walt Disney Company, which is our direct-to-consumer business, which will be the entirety of the economics. So it's actually a pretty important way to set up the company.
Last time I saw you at APOS, you were running strategy and M&A and partnerships and deals. Now you're an operator and you're running a full-scale business. How do you feel about that and that transition? There's a lot to do, and as you've guided out. And then secondly, what happens to Disney's M&A strategy now that Fox deals are done? Do you see,
Yeah.
is there room for more acquisitions in Asia and Europe, locally?
Well, I guess acquisitions are never really done. We're always looking to grow our business, and acquiring assets is always a viable path to growth. I enjoyed doing that for a long time. We made some great acquisitions. I had some, I humbly would propose we had some success there. We bought, while I was running M&A, we bought Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, 21st Century Fox, some others that I'm not going to talk about because they weren't quite as successful, so we don't talk about some other acquisitions. You never bat 1,000, or you don't score goals every time you take a shot. But we've done pretty well there. It was a lot of fun. It was a good run, and we're going to continue to look opportunistically at acquisitions. But we're somewhat extended now. We just completed a $71 billion acquisition. We took on some debt. So I don't think there's any major acquisitions in the cards at this point. But You never know. Something presents itself. We've been pretty good at jumping on opportunities. So never say never, clearly. I think that there's always going to be part of our portfolio of growth. As for me personally, I'm very gratified that Bob Iger had some faith in me and was able to think that I could transition from being a strategy and M&A guy to an operating executive. I hope I fulfill his trust. I think I will. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of similarities. The job I'm doing is highly strategic, so there's a fair amount of strategic thought that goes into how we're going to deploy these services around the world, how we're going to brand them, where we have 3 separate services, where we have one, how we create value in all the different territories. So in a certain sense, it's similar, but I really enjoy being an operating executive. It's a very nice challenge, and it's great. It's a lot of fun.
Last question to you. As you look at this region, obviously you have some big licensing partnerships in play in markets like China and also in Australia and Japan. Then you've got a networks business, which you had and also inherited with Fox. And then you've got local in India and also D2C in India. How do you see that shaking out over the next few years? Where do you want to make the biggest push, and where do you want to keep licensing, and where do you see the importance of networks?
That is a complex question. As I said, the traditional television businesses have been very good to us, and they've been good for consumers, and we don't intend to challenge that business too much. But on the other hand, the direct-to-consumer businesses require content, and they require us to feed them with new and original content, and take some of the content that has been on television and put it at least in both places. It's a balancing act. One of the reasons that we organized the way we did, putting direct-to-consumer and international in the same organization, is that we can make the decisions as to where that balancing act should lie.
Right.
When we should transition some content from traditional to new, and things of that nature. So I think you'll see a shift over time. Certainly, if you're going to have a direct-to-consumer business, it has to be robust. You have to go all in, and we're going to do that. But I do think we're going to have a very substantial and growing and good traditional television business for the foreseeable future as well.
All right. Well, on that note, Kevin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.